So as you know, we just got through this winter storm. I didn't post a video on Christmas Day, so thought I'd take a day off. I made a video talking about all the problems we had, busted window, and I'll put a link to that video at the end of this video. Up next box, it'll pop up next to my face at the end of this video. We did really well. I find it interesting, prepper channels. It really bothers me that prepper channels sit in front of the camera. I mean, there's some preppers, don't get me wrong, there are some preppers that I really think do a good job. But then there's others, they sit in front of a camera telling you how great they are, but they really never demonstrate their greatness. I mean, I try to demonstrate. I've got, 2 years worth of videos of me doing all these things around here. And I'm not even saying I'm great. The difference between a prepper and a guy who lives off grid is a guy who lives off grid just does this stuff all the time. But a prepper, it has occurred to me, are afraid. And Carolyn was explaining this to me a little bit. She actually saw one of these YouTube preppers on one of these conspiracy theorist pages that she goes to. And she goes to it nowadays just to get the laugh, just to see what they're talking about. But she used to actually really pay attention to what they were saying. And she noticed it was causing her a lot of anxiety. Now, she has an anxiety illness. I mean, it's a real problem. It causes cortisol. I've talked about that in previous videos too. And so when she recognized that she was having anxiety because of all these conspiracy theories that really not much of it was coming true, she realized maybe she should get away from it and look at it in a different light. And she has. She doesn't send me all these articles anymore. She laughs at them, says, you know what these guys are talking about, ha! But it really made her afraid. Well, one of these preppers said that they have anxiety. Now, anxiety is an actual mental disorder. It's not that there's something causing you to have anxiety. You just have anxiety, and so your brain needs cortisol, so it looks out for things to scare it. So this prepper has anxiety, so he goes off onto these websites looking for something to scare him. I was watching one of them today, and he was going through how they survived the storm and how they have learned some things. One of the things he learned is that his heat pump won't keep up in these kind of temperatures, so he had to have his backup heater also. So they got to run a conjunction. And my very first question was, what if you lose electric and you don't have the heat pump at all? That means your backup heater and your primary heater can't keep up. You're going to freeze to death. So they don't actually prep to survive. They talk about SHTF. They don't prep for that. They prep to make themselves feel better. Well, I don't need to prep. I'm in that video that I made a few days ago. We had failures. Things didn't work. The water tank, not the tank, but the pipes going to the tank, froze up. No big deal. Grabbed some buckets, went over to the well, started the generator, got water. I even asked Carolyn today, I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how inconvenient has it been not having the water coming out of the water tank through a water heater? And she says, not at all. It's just not been a big deal. To me, it's a little bit bigger of a deal because I got to go out every day and get buckets of water, but usually once every 5 days, I got to fill the water tank. So it's not that big of a deal. So they do it just to subside their anxiety. They don't do it to actually be prepared. Because if this guy, which was complete possibility, I mean, there was millions of people that lost electricity all through the country. If he had lost electric, he would not have made it. It would have been cold. To sit there and say, I'm prepared, yet you're still dependent on the grid, you're dependent on things to take care of you, people to take care of you, you're not prepared. It's not even realistic to say you're even close to being prepared. I'm 90% self-sustaining. I've said this many times, and it would not take much to be completely self-sustaining. We like some conveniences of being connected to society a little bit. I got a comment the other day talking about, I would love to do what you do, Rob, but I'm just too scared. I can't do it. It's just, there's things that frighten me about actually jumping off the cliff and doing it. And I got to thinking about this. Am I scared? Have I been scared? Well, to give you some things in my life that terrified me, but I just went ahead and did it anyways, and got me to this point right now where I'm quite happy and I can be prepared for anything. I mean, nothing bothers me. 18 years old, and I'm out of money. The Gulf War has just started, and I go to the recruiter's office. I need a job, so I joined the Navy and I got onto a submarine. They guaranteed me a West Coast station. Now, it sounded really cool. When I went to the MEP station, it sounded really cool. Yeah, submarine, this is great. And the whole time I was getting ready, boot camp, sub school, I was pretty excited about the whole thing. But I had to get into an airplane, and I'd never been on an airplane, and that was, I don't know, all this new experience for the very first time. I mean, I was just terrified. But what choice did I have? I didn't have any. I mean, the Navy isn't going to let you, oh, you're scared, okay, go back home. No, I mean, it was just, you had to do it. So got on the plane, and yeah, I survived that. That's pretty cool. Made Chicago in the middle of winter. That's where boot camp was. Oh, that was miserable. At sub school in Groton, Connecticut. It was by springtime I was in Connecticut. Man, that was awesome. Oh, that was just great. And then I went to Washington State. Before I got there, flew home for a 2-week vacation. I got married to my high school sweetheart. Now that was terrifying. Now that I'm older, I realize how terrifying it was, but I was terrified at the moment. We don't have an apartment, we don't have barracks, we don't have anything. So we go to a hotel room, and I got enough money on my credit card that I can send her home if I have to. That was the thought process. And we got an apartment, no furniture. Eventually the landlord furnished it for us with a little extra cash. Wow, that was terrifying. I mean, I still think about that and how stupid that was. I mean, we made us stronger for it. Wow, I would never do that again. So we had the entire off crew to get everything established. We had 3 months before I had to go to sea. And the whole time I'm pretty excited, and then, the boat pulls in. It's 2 crews. The boat pulls in, and the blue crew off crews, and we have to do a month's worth of refit, and then we take over, and we're going to go out for 3 months. I can still remember the terrified, heart-stopping feelings I was having when that submarine, when they said, dive, dive. Oh, but made it through. And I served on the submarine, I think, 5 patrols? I don't remember. Oh, that's frustrating. And then the next time I would say I was most terrified was, I was 28 years old, married to my second wife, just adopted her kid. I had a really good job for the time frame. I was making $35,000 a year at 28 years old. I mean, it was a really good job, and there was room for advancement. And I quit. Started my own business. Wow. I mean, I don't even know. It's again like, what were you thinking? Why are you so stupid? But I kept that business for 10 years, kept it through 2 recessions. Then we got debt free, bought a pop-up camper, and thought, you know what? It'd be great to travel the country in a pop-up camper. And I remember leaving the house. It took us several months to get everything rearranged and arranged and get all the furniture sold and trashed and the whole thing. And we hooked that, and we did a test run. We did a 2-week test run, went down to Florida, and then came back. I hooked that pop-up camper to the back of the truck. It was raining, and we headed out. And I looked at the house one last time. It was a rented house. I looked at it one last time, and I thought, what am I doing? I mean, we're homeless. If this doesn't work, what are we going to do? Of course, we had savings. I mean, we could have made everything work. But, man, that was, But, once again, all these dreams that I had, getting married, going to Washington with my new wife, submarine, starting my own business, traveling the country in a pop-up camper. Eventually, somebody burned the camper down, and we had to build that truck camper onto the back of the truck. And so I've accomplished all these dreams, terrified of doing it. Well, then we got tired of traveling. I mean, I've explained that story. It was terrible. I mean, it was just terrible. So we bought this piece of property, and I had to build a tiny house. I've never built a house. I mean, I built the dog kennel, and it fell down a few years later. That was years ago. I built some porches. The whole time I'm building it, I'm calling Dad up. Yeah, what are you gonna do? What should I do? And he always gave these non-specific answers. Well, what you could do, or you could do this, or you could do that. And he forced me. And here I am, 50 years old. My dad is still forcing me. I guess I was, 47, 48 years old. And he's still forcing me to learn my lessons. And it's really good that he did it. he sent me a drawing for the trusses. And I built those myself. And every step of the way, I would call him, what am I supposed to do? And, well, you can do this or you can do that. And, you know, but he never, ever gave specifics. Like, oh, no, you need to make a 45 cut angle right here. Nothing. He'd send me a video every now and then. Here's an idea. But it was all me. I was terrified the whole time building the tiny house. And then the big day come. I had to cut a hole in this roof that I just made. I mean, I just built this tiny house with a roof, got the metal on it, and I had to cut a hole through it so I could put a wood stove chimney through it. I struggled to get my mind wrapped around cutting a hole in this roof after I just spent all this money. And, you know, we weren't rich. We had savings, but it was during the pandemic. Things were slow. I lost a lot of my businesses. At the time, I had YouTube, which was actually starting to grow at that time because a lot of people were having to stay home and watch videos. But I had a business where I had 10 clients, and that's where a bulk of my money was coming from. And during the pandemic, they all kind of just let me go, all but one. Didn't have a lot of money to make a big mistake and have to redo a roof or anything. But we did it. We got through the first winter, and that was a little bit of a struggle because of the water. It froze up. The well wasn't completely fixed yet. Now, just imagine if I would have wrote some guy on YouTube back in 1991, if there would have been a YouTube back then. I know somebody's like, there's no YouTube. I mean, I understand it, but just think about this. If I'd have been watching videos and some YouTuber would have said, yeah, anybody can do this, it's easy. And I would have said, I'm just too terrified to do it. I just can't get myself any strength to do it. Look at all the things that I would have missed. I mean, I've been watching, I guess it's kind of stuck in my head right now. I've been watching Sharks of Steel. The Sharks of Steel was my boat, the USS Georgia, SSBN 729. It's an SSGN now, I think. They've changed it over. That was my boat. Now, the crew on Sharks of Steel is the blue crew. I was the gold crew. So it wasn't my crew, but I did know the captain, Captain Raz. He was the captain of the blue crew. I knew a lot of the guys on the blue crew that are in that film. So I've been watching Sharks of Steel again. I watched it 100 times throughout my life, but it's on YouTube, so I was watching it. And it's got me to thinking about all this stuff. Just imagine the things that I would have missed. Looking out at Hood Canal and that beautiful mountain. There's just so many things that I would have missed because I was too afraid to go live my dreams. And that's what I see. I see these preppers. They're so afraid to do anything. The only thing they do is just talk themselves into being prepared. They're not prepared. It's so frustrating to me to watch these guys get on YouTube and say, I'm an expert on prepping. You're going to watch me and I'm going to tell you how to survive the SHTF. And they don't have a clue. It's just amazing to me. They can convince themselves and other people they know what they're doing. You have to actually do it. So here's my challenge to you and to the preppers. Go into your breaker box and you have a main breaker. It's usually down on the bottom of the breaker panel, which controls everything. You can slide that off and it shuts off the entire house. Take that breaker and shut it off. Just shut it off. And then figure it out. If you want to live off grid, you want to live the dream, shut it off. I will give you the advantages of going out and buying a small generator, 2,500 watt generator like I got. And shut it off and say, okay, now it's time for me to live. It's time for me to figure this out. And you still got the advantage of, oops, I messed that up, that didn't work. And you turn it back on real quick until you got that figured out. Don't be afraid, just do it. So if you'll click this up next box, take that video where I showed you all the struggles we had through this winter storm. So I hope I can inspire you to shut that breaker off. Thanks for watching.